Welcome to Season 4 of She Lancer, Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. I'm your host, Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and this podcast are the audio versions of my live Q&A chats on YouTube. If you'd like to be part of the live Q&A chats, come on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. I'm live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. EST. We talk about voiceover, the business of voiceover, audiobooks, and so much more. Find more information on my website, voiceoverangela.com. Enjoy today's episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me again for another live community chat here on my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Glad to have you here. My name is Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and my channel is dedicated to all of you just getting started in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. Let's get the mush mouth out of the way. If you're not new here, then you know that every week we have a new poll, which is pretty much the topic of our chat today, although I'm sure we'll get into a couple of others. We usually do. But today's poll, and we're talking about voiceover pricing. So I ask these questions of you because I kind of want to get a pulse on where everybody is at that's watching, so we can sort of customize the discussion today. And it looks like Okay. So with the poll right now, we have about 22 votes. If you haven't voted, go ahead and vote real quick. That way we can get a good idea of where everybody is at. All right, let's go for it. So we got 23 votes so far. Looks like 9% of you, so maybe just a couple, use the GVAA or another rate guide to determine what your rates are going to be. And 17, still changing. 17% of you said I charge what others in my level do. 8% of you said I made an educated guess. And the vast majority of you said I haven't decided yet. So good. So I'm hoping that something in this discussion today, or something that I show you, will help you decide what to charge, what you should be charging. So it's like we're still changing a little bit. Yeah, okay. So if the vast majority of you haven't decided yet, okay. So what I'm going to do is show you a couple of sites, rate guides, that you can go and visit and get an idea of what standard rates and all of the other little bits and pieces that go along with it, like usage rights and all of those things, where they all come into play and at what level you should be charging them. Ultimately, this is your business, so you get to determine what your rates are. I'll show you what they should be, what they could be, and perhaps maybe a little bit of insight from some of the people here in the comments. But again, ultimately, it's your business, so you can decide what to do. I'll tell you what I did. In the beginning, of course, everything is overwhelming, right? There's so much to learn, so much to research, so much to kind of wrap your arms around and your brain around. There's just so much that you need to be aware of. And in the beginning, I was made aware of a rate guide that I'm going to show you, which is the GVAA. Let's just go ahead and hop over there and show you that now. So this is let me take that banner off of there. Okay, so this is the GVAA rate guide. This is considered to be the standard for voiceover work. It is mainly, I think at this point, for mostly union voiceover work, but considered to be a standard for voiceover rates. And you can find this at globalvoiceacademy.com. And then you would just click on the rate guide. So this is what you would see, Global Voice Acting Academy. And you just come over here to click on the GVAA rate guide. And this is what you will see. So We do have some terminology and things, but if you could do like a quick jump on any of these different categories here. So we've got animation, e-learning, imaging, audiobooks, pickups, um, events, radio broadcast, non-broadcast, video games, toys and games, things like that. So there's almost everything that I could even think of is here. I believe, yep, even IVR on hold. So for audiobooks, let's just click over to that and it'll take us right there. They did break it up between union and non-union, but these are basically the higher end or the standard again for what voiceover should be. So looking over this and taking some notes is, I think, is a great way to start to know where you ultimately should end up as far as pricing. I know in the beginning it's a little bit hard. We talk about, especially if you're on some of the pay to plays, the freelance marketplace sites where you need that social proof, right? You need those ratings and reviews before you start to pick up on business, right? We need those ratings and social proof. So our rates tend to be a little bit lower, which is fine. This is the same way that I went about it, but you're not going to stay at those rates forever. As soon as you start to get a little bit of business, you start to get those ratings and reviews, you're going to have more and more clients at that point trusting you with their money and their work. So business will start to pick up and you can start to increase your rates. I did see a comment about rate increases, and we'll get to that. I think, well, mainly rate increases is going to be strategic in several different places. More often than not, that's going to be when work becomes too overwhelming and you need, supply and demand. If you're overwhelmed, then, or you're getting too much work, then you need to start increasing your prices. Or if you just feel it's time, right? If you want to choose a specific interval for increasing your rates, like 6 months, a year, whatever that is, then do it. Or if you're on a freelance marketplace site or a pay to play, then look at what everyone else around you in your comparable level is doing and what they're charging, and then change your rates accordingly, because you may be way underpriced, compared to everyone else in your level. But back to the GVAA rate guide, again, this is pretty much the standard. It will explain a lot of, there was even one down here, I think, towards, studio fees and editing. So if you have a client that has a question regarding studio rates, pickup fees, anything like that, these are all in here. Another one that I wanted to note was, sorry for all the super fast scrolling, e-learning. You'll have some clients reach out to you that instead of asking you, what is your rate per word, they will ask you, what is your rate per minute or per hour? And the GVAA rate guide is a great way to kind of break that down into what that should be and what you should charge. Live directed sessions, almost anything you could ask for. Everything that I needed answers to, I have found in the GVAA rate guide. Now, if you're looking at this as you're just starting out and you're like, oh my gosh, this looks like way too much. There is another rate guide that my friend and former coach, Anthony Pica, had created on his website. And that is on his website at viosjourney.com. Now, this rate guide was created, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and he has revised it, added more functionality to it. It's a really great rate guide. And this is more geared toward the remote voiceover artist, right? With pay-to-play pricing, freelance marketplace pricing, that sort of stuff. It's a little bit more palatable, not as scary in the beginning. He has a lot of great information here. And then he also added these price calculator, these word count calculators. So like, for example, here's non-broadcast and recording fee for freelance and pay-to-play websites. That's what P2P means, is pay to play, meaning that you have to pay something to the site for, the ability to work on their site, whether that's an annual fee, quarterly fee, whether they take a percentage, that sort of thing. That's what pay to play means. And he also has this broken down by beginner rates, intermediate rates, and then seasoned or experienced rates. So it makes it really easy to understand and to sort of price everything out according to the level in which you are currently at. There was something else that I wanted to mention in here. Yeah, audiobook narration. He has everything in here. Even for audio dramas, pricing per hour or per word, phone messages, IVR, e-learning, corporate narration, anything and everything that you could want is in here. I think there was something else I wanted to mention, but I'm hoping it'll come back to me. So this is basically where you can start, and then you can adjust your prices to what you want them to be, right? Take them as suggestions, right? These are some ideas based on the level in which you are at, and then ultimately with the GVAA rate guide or even Anthony's rate guide, you can kind of determine where your final goal or where you should be at, once you're seasoned and experienced, or make them whatever you want them to be. But we want to try to stay as close to these rate guides as we can, within, little increments. Right? You want to stay close to what these are. That way, everybody is consistent across the board, and respecting each other as a community. We are all charging around the same amount based on your experience level. So that is something else to consider. Now, as far as a rate card, and we've talked about a rate card a few times. I think I even have a video here on my channel where I talk about how to create a rate card. And I actually have another one, a refreshed one, coming out on Thursday this week more about the rate guide and how to create a rate card. Basically, I don't have a posted rate card or posted rates on my website. I would much rather have somebody reach out to me for my rates on my website rather than posting them, because everybody's budget's going to be different. Some of the terminology might be confusing, and if they see big numbers, they might just be turned off and, not even give me an opportunity to explain or to quote or to even start to build a relationship with someone. So I would much rather have that opportunity than to scare someone away before we can even, meet, for the most part. But you will have clients asking you to send them a copy of your rate card so they have it on file. Once you start to reach out to companies and perhaps they have room on their roster for you, they're going to want a copy of your rate guide. So going to Canva, and again, I break this down how to do this on the video coming out on Thursday, but you basically go to Canva, super easy way to do it, and look up a menu template. And then you can use that as sort of a guide and then fill in the text for the different categories of voiceover that you want. And then, and then price it accordingly. And then save it as a PDF, and there you go. You can send that off in an email or anywhere else that needs to, however the client needs it, even as a PNG if you wanted to. Again, there was something else that I wanted to mention. I'm sure it'll come back to me right as we're wrapping up or something. Or maybe it'll be sparked. My memory will be kind of kicked into gear once we get into the comments. So let's do that. Let's go over to the comments really quick and see who's here. And thank you again for everyone joining today. I appreciate the time you take to hang out with us. Chris is here. Hey, Chris. Chris says, if I were to charge a per finished hour rate, it would be based on what I am offering. It should be. It definitely should be. Because you might be an author, not an author, but a narrator. You are an author. But if you're a narrator and you have the ability to add music or sound effects or another narrator, dual narration. I mean, all depending on what you're offering, your pricing is going to be different, right? It's not like it's sort of like an a la carte kind of a thing. Or is it a la carte? I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Your rate's going to be different depending on what you're offering. With my skills and the added work I would put in, I would start with a per finished hour rate of 350 to 500 USD. Since I would be adding in character voices, sound effects, and in some cases, custom cinematic composition, I think a higher per finished hour rate is fair. And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, once you get into audio dramas and then there's, a full soundtrack and full, character voices and like a full cast, it's definitely going to be a higher rate because there's more work involved, right? Rustic Hillbilly is here. Good morning, Rustic Hillbilly. How you doing? Helen, I think this was Ozzy. Hey, Ozzy. I know I'm a beginner, and no matter how nice my mom says my voice is, until I have reviews under my belt on platforms I'm spinning tires unless I price low, is working. But I'm keen to know when to start scaling prices up a little. Is there a defined marker or threshold? There is not a defined marker or threshold. Again, I would say to increase your prices once your demand is higher and you're starting to find you have less time to get the work you have done. That would be a really great indicator of when to increase your prices, supply and demand. Also, if you're moving up in levels or gaining badges or, when you're on these websites where you're offering your work, and everyone around you, around in your level is starting to raise their prices, I would do the same. Keep in mind that on some of these sites, I don't want to say all of them, but some of them, namely like Fiverr and Upwork, what the client is typically spending on the site is what they're going to be shown first, from how I understand, if I'm explaining this right. So if I was a buyer on Fiverr who had typically spent, let's just say, somewhere between $50 to $100 typically on orders placed, then when I'm searching for something, I'm going to be shown freelancers or sellers that have a price range of that amount, that are selling in that price range. So it wouldn't hurt to try and experiment a little bit with, let's say, Fiverr with your gigs, because you don't want to stay at, $5, $10, $15 forever. Why not just try? You have a handful of gigs. Why not try one? Actually, no, you don't want to do that because you don't want to have different pricing. So you would have to increase the pricing of all of them because you don't want to look like a fool when somebody says, hey, how come this one's priced so much higher than this one? So I take that back. Try increasing your prices, right? Take a look at some of the people around you that have or on the higher end of the pricing structure and try that and see if that, you have to give it some time though. Anytime you make a change, specifically with Fiverr, you have to give the algorithm a chance to kind of put you in the right place in the algorithm, so to speak. So anytime you make a change, you have to wait a few weeks before you decide whether or not it's working or not. So if you're sitting in a place where you're stagnant on Fiverr, then making a change really isn't going to hurt you at that point, right? So why not? Try increasing your prices. Take a look again at what the higher priced people in your level are doing as far as this pricing structure, and try that and see what kind of change that makes for you in the algorithm. But there isn't like benchmarks in which to change your prices. It's sort of trial and error. I'm Ozzy here on the wife's account. Hey, Ozzy, how you doing? Miriam says, hi, Angela and group. Hi, Miriam. I struggle with this because some sites I am on suggest 25 per finished hour. They do. And other sites like ACX, where it shows authors' suggested price range is 50 to 100, I will usually say 75. I'm not sure what site is that tells you or suggests 25 per finished hour. I would say that's way too low because as we all know, audiobooks are definitely work. They are definitely work, and $25 per finished hour could equal out to just a couple of bucks an hour, especially in the beginning. I definitely wouldn't charge that. I started out at 50, but that was only maybe one or two books until I was more confident in my skills, and then I started to increase my prices. Now on ACX, if you're auditioning for books where the author has a specified budget, then that's kind of where you're at. So if let's just say your per finished hour rate is 200, and you're looking to audition for books that are where the author's budget is 100, you need to make that decision on whether or not you're going to audition for that book, knowing that the author is, looking for a lower budget. Or you audition for the book with your actual rate and just see what happens. It could very well be that the author doesn't really know how the pricing structure works, or just arbitrarily selected something looking for quotes, right, from different levels of narrators. Usually I will just quote my rate, regardless of what the client or the buyer has listed as their budget, because I have found in my experience, more often than not, it's just an arbitrary number. It's just a number they chose because they wanted to see how much it would actually be, because they didn't know. They didn't have an expectation. They wanted you, as the professional, to tell them what this project would cost so they can get an idea and then see if it is in fact something in their budget. So that's typically what I do, is just quote my rate, no matter what their budget is. So you could do that, or just not audition for it. But I wouldn't do that. I would just go for it. If there's something that you want to audition for it, but give them your actual rate. Ozzy says to Miriam, I too adjust my price based on which platform I am on. I get better luck going higher, but still comparatively low on Fiverr, lower on Upwork. Seems that this starts a trend, though. On Upwork, prospective clients can see my past pricings. Yeah, and most freelancers start out at the low end and then work their way up in pricing. It's kind of a normal, it's usually, it's a typical thing. So it doesn't mean that you're being, I don't know, scammy or greedy or any of the things that go through our heads. That's pretty typical as far as freelancers go. You start out at one price, and then as your experience and training and equipment, as everything upgrades, your pricing is going to reflect that. So don't feel bad about that at all. And then Ozzy says, typing accurately on keypads is hard for my sausage fingers. Sausage Fingers, great brand. It is a great band name, Sausage Fingers. No worries. Angel says, good morning. Good morning, Angel. Glad to have you here. MG Stevens is here. Good morning, Angela and everyone. The area of pricing has to be one of the most challenging areas we face, as there are many differences of opinions and ways to price. Exactly. And remember, again, this is your business. You do what you want to do. So what I typically do every so often, I will take a look around. I will go back into my research phase, and I will, like, on all the platforms that I'm on, I'll start to look around at what people, comparatively close to my experience level. I will start to take a look at what they're charging, and then I'll make that decision at that time to adjust my prices. I never go down. I always go up. What I will do is change maybe the word count. Let's just take Fiverr, for example, so you guys can follow along with what I'm saying. Instead of changing or increasing the word count, I'll decrease the word count, maybe keep the pricing the same, or I'll increase my prices and then just adjust the word count some way. But I'll never go down, if that makes sense, because that's not, It may not be appealing to some people, but it may end up landing in the like spending budget limits, like I mentioned before, of other new people, or just simply making a change to your gig at any point in time is going to reset your algorithm. So even if you just change the title, even if you maybe update your thumbnails, which I recommend you do often, again, researching first to see what everybody else is doing, what's appealing, what's getting traction, and just make a change. It couldn't be your, maybe it's not your prices at all. Maybe it's just your algorithm sort of, stuck you down in the back pages. So just make a change. You don't have to change your prices. But to your point, MG, there are a lot of opinions and there's a lot of, but do what you want to do. Do what feels right to you. Chat with Lorna Learning Channel. Hey, how you doing? Hola, Angela. Chat. Nice evening from España. Would love to go back to Spain. Jealous. Caesar. Hey, Caesar. Hey, darling. Oh, hi. Still not sure what to charge yet, as I'm not sure how to gauge my worth. Caesar. I'm hoping that with the 2 rate guides that I just showed you, you can come up with something, but this is definitely something that we need to talk about. On the one hand, I need more experience, but top tier in all other aspects: room treatment, audio quality, and equipment. Perhaps, experience is, there's a lot of elements that go into that aspect of the pricing. I would say charge, go to like the intermediate. If you want to start at the beginning rates, like I showed you on Anthony's site, start there if you want to, but I don't think that's fair to where you truly are. For you, I would say start at intermediate as a minimum. Pamela said, movers arrived yesterday. Fun. In a couple of days, new temporary blankie fort on the horizon. Have only heard one helicopter in 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm sure it's a far cry from LA, huh? That's opposed to 8 hours or 8 a day. My dog will be so happy. Yes, exactly. My cup of tea says, good morning, everyone. Good morning to you. Caesar says, at the moment, I'm working on getting some projects out of the way so I can ease my way out of the red and black in the black. I'll be back on audiobooks by next week. Good. I'm glad to hear it, Caesar. Scotty says, good morning, everyone. Ready to soak up some knowledge. Good. I hope I have imparted some and not just blah, blah, blah. Caesar says, that said, hello, Angela. Hello, everyone. It's official. My Lewitt mic is dying. Oh, no. And dying at the worst possible time. I'll keep it on life support until it's ready for replacement or better, upgrade. Yeah, I think you have quite a few mics in your stable. If the Lewitt does kick the bucket, I think you have a few others to fall back on, do you not? Ozzy says, time for mouth to mic resuscitation. Hi, Caesar. Janelle. Hey, Janelle. Good to see you. Hello, Angela and Angelinians. I do a combo of other rate guides, and sometimes it depends on how much extra magic I may need to sprinkle on the project. Very true. Very true. So to your point, your rate is going to be your rate. And then if you have extras that you can sprinkle on, and those are things that you probably want to have on your rate guide so you can refer to them quickly when someone asks you for a quote. For example, if you're doing IVR, if you're doing phone greetings, and someone, and I'm sorry for the noise, my air conditioner's on because I live in the desert and it's hot out here. For example, if you have phone greetings and the client asks you for several different prompts, maybe 10 different prompts, and then one of them is also a on-hold greeting. So if you offer the options of splitting the files, meaning one script but 10 different files, one for each prompt, and then if you also offer a option for adding music and then perhaps looping that on-hold greeting for, let's just say, 5 minutes, maybe the client's phone system doesn't have the ability to loop a greeting, or music, you can offer those add-ons to the client, those services to the client for an extra fee. So extra magic sprinkled on the project, extra little services that you can add, same thing. But if these are things that you're finding that you can do, I would definitely add those to your rate card, again, to reference back to later. And then also add them to your services on websites that allow you to, like Fiverr, where you can create a gig for IVR phone greetings. And then you have all those little custom extras, or those little, even the pre-filled extras. So you can add split files, you can add background music, you can add a custom one for looping for 5 minutes. Just think of all of those little extras and account for those as well on your pricing. And then if I'm trying to think of another one for the extra magic, right? Same thing for audiobooks. You could add music to audiobooks if you wanted to, or special sound effects if you're doing like a video game voice and you want to add like a robotic sound effect. Maybe it's a robot speaking, something like that. Sometimes the clients want to do that, and sometimes they rely on you to be able to do that too. But whatever it is, make sure that you account for those extra services as well. So it's really going to depend on what the project entails or what the scope of it is, what you need to do. Right. Caesar says to Ozzy, oh, if only it were that simple. This would be more like wallet to Sweetwater resuscitation. I want to know, Caesar, do you have your sales rep from Sweetwater on speed dial? Does he have a... I'm sure they text, right? You can just text him. I'm sure you guys are on a first name basis. Dylan has to catch the replay. I'm slaving away on the golf course today. Oh, you poor guy. I'm so sorry to hear that. Just wanted to check in and give a like. Thank you so much, Dylan. And we'll see you on the replay. Dwight is here. Bavarian cream donuts are being offered up. Sorry, I'm late. Auditioning gets me in the zone. That's a good thing. I will allow lateness. No donuts are necessary if you're auditioning. That is an acceptable reason to be late. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad you're auditioning, Dwight. Caesar says, have fun, Dylan. Smash that like button with a 9-iron. No, don't do that. I don't recommend doing that. Literally, don't do that. But take your finger and click it with your mouse. Click that like button. I would appreciate that. You could do that. Not with a 9-iron. Masonry Constructions here. Best guide to pricing work. Be competitive in the marketplace, but don't compete in all marketplaces. Your abilities and following will often determine the correct marketplace. Meaning that some websites or some marketing strategies will work better than others, but your pricing should be consistent again through everything, because the last thing you want to do is have somebody find you on, let's just say, Fiverr, just because it was easy to grab out of my brain. Fiverr, they find you on Fiverr, they Google you, they find your website, then they reach out to you for a quote, and your word calculator, your pricing calculator on Fiverr gives them a much bigger number or a much smaller number than what you gave them from your website. Then who's got egg on their face, right? Who looks like someone just trying to take advantage? You want to keep your pricing the same across the board, which means once you do decide to raise your prices at any point on any platform, then the prices change to be the same everywhere else going forward and on your rate card. So you got to make sure that you change them all everywhere. So it's a commitment, but that's just, something else that makes you look transparent, trustworthy, professional, to make sure that your rates are the same. Clay Celestino is here. I've worked for steady, repeat clients and private studios over the past 20 plus years. I do voiceovers, language coaching, or worked as a producer. Repeat business, justified lower than average market rates. I'm glad you brought that up because, again, this being your business, your call, you are the person that determines your rates. Have your standard rates across the board. If you have repeat clients or high volume clients, or even a client that maybe you've been working with for a while, and every once in a while, perhaps their client's budget is a little bit lower, but they still want to use you, you can be flexible. You can create a discounted, like a bulk volume sort of a rate for these clients. That is your prerogative as a business owner. You can do that. Standard rates, and then have a special discounted rate for high volume, bulk, right? Repeat. You can do that too. I do it. I know almost everybody else does it. So that is something that you can do. You can be flexible in those instances. Meaningful conversations with Sing and Lisa. I need to put my glasses on. I'm sorry. I've been asked to voice a book, but I need help with pricing. This would be my first book. I've done radio, commercials, etc. Audiobooks are a completely different beast than any of the other short form things that it looks like that you're used to. Audiobooks are hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of work. Depending, of course, on how big the book is. There are audiobook rates on GVAA and on Anthony's Rate Guide. The industry standard rate for audiobooks is $250 per finished hour. And it took me probably 3 years to get there. I started out at $50 per finished hour because I didn't want to charge someone full price for my inexperience. And as I was learning, and then after a couple of books, I increased it to 100, and then a couple more books, 150 or 125. I mean, again, whatever you feel is appropriate. But just know that audiobooks are priced completely differently than any other type of voiceover. So I would definitely take a look at GVAA or Anthony's Rate Guide to get an idea of how to price your audiobook, because every finished hour of an audiobook is, especially in the beginning when you're still learning everything, how to edit, format, master, and all of those things, every finished hour could be 5 or 6 hours of work to get one finished hour. So just keep that in mind. It's a lot of work. Oh my goodness, we got a super chat. Hold on. I'm scrolling. Sean Lester, thank you for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate you. Sean says, at the beginning, did you set a goal for yearly income, or did your rates develop more organically? That is a great question. When I was still employed, when this was sort of, when I was still a baby voice artist, audiobook narrator, but employed for someone else full-time before I went full-time, I sort of increased my rates organically, much in the way that I had mentioned before. As I started to get busier, I would increase my rates, took a look at the people around me. I wanted to stay competitive, in my level, in my experience level. But once I went full-time, I knew that I had to make a certain amount of money per day in order to sustain staying home and being employed full-time, self-employed full-time. So with that, so yes, I knew that I had to make a certain amount of money per day and then per week. I don't know about yearly. No, I didn't set a yearly goal. It just sort of happened that way. And then, continued to grow. So, and then I was very almost shocked at the end of the year when I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that's me. I did that, right? It was a very proud moment. But I stuck to per day. Like, what can I do per day in order to sustain this business? And that's kind of what kept me, with the fire, under my seat every day, is that I needed to do this. I needed to do this. I needed to, in order to make a certain amount every day. That's kind of how I looked at it, instead of as yearly, because that was too long of a time period, I think, for me. So I had to focus on daily. Or if you want, you can even do weekly, monthly, that sort of thing. But for the most part, they developed, changed organically with time. But I wanted to make sure that I was able to sustain this for sure before I jumped to full time. Yes, I am trying to find where I left off. And then thank you again for the super chat, my friend. Singing Lisa says would love suggestions. I hope I'd given you some. Masonry Construction says to Miriam, $25 might work in extremely short VO work, such as video testimonial, which is often only a minute or two in length. Getting started, it's okay to be cheap on the minute piece, not a book. Agreed, 100%. Books should never be under, I think 50 or 75 is bare minimum. And I would never do 25 per finished hour. That's way too low for the work involved. Steven says, each case is different. You're right. Yeah. Everything is going to be a little bit different depending on what it is, where it's going to be used, all of those things. Sometimes explaining to clients how we set our rates or sending them a link to GVAA can help educate them on rate structure. Budget is also a factor when setting rates. I've never sent anybody a link to a rate guide. I've never done that to a client. Instead of doing that, I would just take the time to explain to them what my rates are and why they are what they are. And it was sort of I had to have sort of like a take it or leave it mentality. This is my rate. And if it scared them away, then I took that as a sign from the universe that we weren't meant to work together. But if they would reach out again and say, well, that's a little bit outside of my budget, I was thinking more or less this or this, and started a conversation, then I would try to, make it work for both of us. If we were just way too far apart, then, again, a sign from the universe we weren't meant to work together. But if we were close, then I would more than often likely, work with them on their budget. But it is case by case. It is definitely case by case. Because if you think about all of the training that you've had, all of the coaching, all of the equipment that we've purchased, all of the hours you've invested in honing your craft and just getting better to give your client a better performance and a better sound, that's worth something, right? Don't ever think that when you're first starting out that you have zero to offer or you have zero worth. That's not true. In order to get to the point, if you've invested in time creating a space, creating a recording space, you've invested the money into the equipment, you've invested money and in time into training in any aspect, whether you have a coach or whether you've watched a lot of videos and you're part of a community and you're active in it. I mean, those are all investments that are worth something. So don't ever, discount yourself because you think you're not worth anything. I don't think that's fair to you at all. Tangent? Baby tangent? Mini tangent. That was a mini tangent. Brian, Space Kid and Luna. Hey, Brian, how you doing? Caesar says, I got the mom look. You did. You did. Don't ever say that you can't figure out your worth. Stop it. Stop it. It was the angry mom look. I'm going to take my sandal off right now. Caesar. My cup of tea says, this is very helpful. Thank you for the info. Hopefully I can get things consistently rolling. You should, as long as you stay consistent and growing and, expanding your knowledge and practicing a lot and auditioning a lot and getting some kind of training information, right? You should get better just inherently over time. The Cozy Review says, good morning, afternoon. Good morning to you. Well, it's morning for me, but afternoon for you, perhaps. Clay says, I have a couple of steady repeat clients and private studios for which I have accepted a rate below unionized rates. but still competitive rates. But they provide the sound engineers in those cases. Oh, yeah. It definitely changes the rate when the client has their own sound engineers, especially when you're talking about audiobooks, because you will, I mean, I've only run into these situations maybe once or twice. Most of the time, even with everything else I do, most of the time I'm expected to give them something finished, broadcast ready. So that requires, the use of all of my equalizers, my effects rack, and making sure that it's set to their standards so they can just take what I give them and then use it for whatever application they're going to use it for. But you will also come across clients that have their own sound engineers. And so you send them a raw product. All you do is record it in the way that they're asking you to. No effects, no gating, no special anything. Just record it, maybe even sometimes without even any editing, and just record it and send it off. And those are going to require, of course, less time. So it might be a little bit of a different rate, smaller rate, right? For that kind of a thing, especially when you get into audiobooks, because that's a lot less time with editing, formatting, all of that stuff. So it is really just a case by case, but have your standard rates set, decided, and ready. And then you can make small modifications depending on the situation that you're presented with. Bears, hey, Donnie. Hello, all. I have been working, so I've been lurking, reviewing this one a lot. Good. And we can talk about rates and stuff in Platinum Group on Thursday, too. Ty Condolar, hello. Hello, hello. I just got my first audiobook offer for a children's book. Congratulations. The offer includes a 15-minute checkpoint. What does this mean? Do you have a video showing how to label submit files? Nervous. Yes, I do. If you go to, I have a playlist here on my channel for audiobook narration. I have a ton of videos on there that go over all of these different aspects. But the 15-minute checkpoint it doesn't literally have to be 15 minutes. It's just the first section of the book, not the opening credits. It's usually like the intro, chapter 1, whatever larger piece of the book is available to you to narrate. And the purpose of that is to submit that to the author, and then they can review it and see if you are going or performing at the right pace, tone, character voices. If there's anything that they want to change, that would be the point in which to change it before you complete the remainder of the book. So that is the purpose of the 15-minute checkpoint, is to make sure that you are, you and the author are on the same page on how they want their audiobook produced. So, and then once that's approved, then you just finish the remainder of the book in the same fashion, same tone, same character voices, so on and so forth. As far as to label and submit files, yes, I do. I have a couple of videos, I think at least, that go over naming conventions and submitting files, for sure. Caesar says, my Sweetwater rep is like, oh boy, it's Christmas in February. Oh boy, it's Christmas in March. Yeah, mine sends me messages all the time. Hey, need any new stuff? I'm like, no, man. I'm good for now, but hit me up later. Hoagie Tunes, 100%. It's serious. Needed some caffeine. It's serious when the Sweetwater agent is on speed dial, but they too know who I am. Yeah, same. Got myself the Synco D2 as you guys suggested. Awesome. It's an awesome mic. Good job. And if for those of you going, what the heck is Sweetwater? Sweetwater.com is a website in which has supplied probably 75% of the things in my studio, including my desk, because it's got like rack holders and all kinds of cool stuff. But Sweetwater.com is where you can get audio and video gear. And the sales reps are amazing. They'll text you and you can text them back. They'll give you recommendations. They'll help you with, choosing stuff and what's right for you and your space. They are fantastic. Customer service is second to none. Sweetwater. Check them out. Joy says, hello, everyone from sunny. That was not a paid advertisement. I'm just telling you. They are amazing. Joy says, hello, everyone from sunny Southfield, Michigan. Sorry I'm late. I hope you brought the donuts, unless you were auditioning. I'm late, just waking up. My knee. Okay, well, all right. You're all right. You get a pass. You get a knee pass. My knees kill me too, so I understand. Waking up my knee kept me up the whole night with pain and spasms thanks to PT therapy, but to me, it's torture. I could totally relate. I just started kickboxing. Went last night and my knee is swollen, but I'm going to do it again tonight. I'm not giving up. I'm doing it. Yes, I can. So keep at it, Joy. Keep at it, Joy. Donnie says, my auditions are on hold until my new computer gets here, which has turned into a nightmare. So until then, I am working on my peripherals, i.e. website, price sheet, and personal hygiene. Personal hygiene is always a plus, for sure. But there's always, to Donnie's point, there's always something to do. There's always something to update. There's always something to flesh out. There's always something to add to. There's always something to refresh, renew, add to. There's always something to do in your idle time. So if you're not auditioning or if you're not actively working on a book or a project, you should still be working on something to build the foundation of your business, right? Your website, your price sheet, like we talked about today, building social media platforms, strategizing content for it. There's all kinds of stuff to do. Learning more about your DAW, learning how to add effects, which effects you actually need. Learning performance tips, listening to audiobooks yourself. If you are, an aspiring audiobook narrator, you should be also listening to audiobooks yourself, not only for enjoyment, but for professional development. For sure. Personal hygiene is kind of a given. Scotty says, do you build in the platform fees to those rates, Fiverr's, V123, etc.? They would be potentially higher than ACX since there isn't a fee there. Platform fees to those rates. Oh, I see what you're saying. Because they charge the annual fee. You can. You absolutely can. Because those pay-to-plays and those freelance marketplaces all take a piece in one way, shape, or form. So once you're in the part where you're kind of like out of the no review zone and you're starting to build some momentum, that's the point when I would start building in those fees. Because, for example, Fiverr takes 20%. They take $1 for every 5 you make. And then they do the same with the client. They take 20% from them. So to offset what you're losing, you could definitely increase your prices a bit to cover that cost. Same thing with voices.com or voice123 or any of those other sites. You could have your pricing sort of help offset the cost of the annual fee. So you could do that too. Absolutely. Trying to figure out where I'm at here. Singing with Lisa says, thank you. Good. I hope that helped. Scotty says, what do you use to monitor, compare other rates since they aren't really posted? It depends on the platform, but most of the platforms you can go look at other people. You can go look at other profiles, look at other sellers, gigs, and just look at what they're charging. Look at what their rates are. That's pretty much how I get the idea. If you can't see what other people are charging, then that's when I'll revert to one of the rate guides and just make my best educated guess based on where I'm at. Hoagie Toon says, I love this live subject matter. I needed this. Good. I was hoping so. Brian says, how do you break an audiobook into daily rates? Why would you want to break it into daily rates? You mean like referring to what I was talking about making X amount of dollars per day? I'm not sure what you mean. Robert says, Fiverr question. It's known that a fast response time to messages helps your ranking, but does the same apply to ongoing messages in an existing thread? I received a last message and couldn't reply. I think it does. I know that the initial response is what they say they're really looking for and what you're timed on, but I think having the last word really does matter in all aspects of Fiverr. Even just looking at the thread, I don't think is enough. So, for example, if you're having a conversation with someone in the thread and in your inbox thread, and then they ask a question, you answered it, they say thank you, you should also say no problem, have a great day, or something like that. It can get a little bit, weird, I suppose, when they go, thank you very much, you're welcome, have a great day, have a great day. I mean, if it gets to the point where it's just you trying to have the last word is just awkward, I would just leave it. If it ever gets to that point and Fiverr says your response rate is dropped or whatever, I would just contact customer support. And this really goes for anything in Fiverr. If it just kind of gets weird, contact customer support, screenshot it, and then send it to them and say, hey, is this why my response rate is tanking? Because I mean, at this point, I don't want to be just like a nuisance to this buyer and trying to have the last word at the end of each sentence, at the each interaction. Is this what's affecting my response rate? Because I don't want to be a nuisance to them. But that's pretty much what I would do. Trimlight says, is VO like a job, no residual income? It's going to depend on what type of voiceover you're doing, because there are obviously audiobooks with their royalty share. There's going to be residuals with that, or royalties going forward. Some types of commercial work will have residuals. Some video games will have residuals. It depends on what you're doing and with whom, right? Most of the platforms, there isn't a way to set up residuals or royalties or things like that. So most of that is buyout, right? There's a buyout fee or an upfront fee to cover any kind of residuals you'd make going forward. But if it's someone that you're working with directly or with an agent or something like that, and there are ways to set up royalties, residuals, you could do it that way. But it's really going to depend on what you're doing and with whom. There is residual income for sure. Donnie says everything is negotiable. Absolutely. Joy says, I would definitely go with either GVAA rates or Anthony's rate guide. Yeah, I would start with GVAA, so you kind of get like the standard larger end of it, and then go to Anthony's. And then with that knowledge from GVAA, look at his rate guide and then kind of figure out where you are on the experience level. And then, choose a rate. Choose a rate that you feel is best for you. Scotty says, I've lost gigs on ACX because they saw my rate on my profile was too high, yet I was willing to negotiate in their range. Excuse me, because I liked the subject matter. Personally, I've never had anybody even go to my profile and looked at my rate. My rates haven't been changed, and I don't even know how long. But I think most of the jobs that I've won was because I auditioned or I posted a sample, and then they would reach out to me and say, hey, I loved your sample. So not to say that clients don't go check your profile, they do, but I think not as often as we think they do. I think it ultimately is going to come down to, does your voice fit what I need? Can I afford you? Are you available? And then your pricing that you gave them with the audition is kind of what they're going to be basing things on. Even if your rate is too high, I'm hoping that the client would reach out to you and say, hey, can we negotiate a bit? If they just ghost you or you think they're scared away because of your rate, maybe it's a sign from the universe that maybe it just wasn't meant to be. That's kind of how I take it. That way I don't ruminate and obsess on little things, Maybe I'm just really good at compartmentalizing things. I don't know. But that's how I look at it. Wasn't meant to be. Masonry Construction says, from a marketing negotiation standpoint, if someone comes to you and asks for a bid, always first ask if the prospect has a budget in mind. If one is given, you at least know what the bottom price is. To your point, yes. However, you'll have some people, again, with that arbitrary number because they just don't know, and they choose a budget that just educated guess, maybe an uneducated guess, maybe just a flat out guess. And they don't really know how much these things cost, which is why I always start with what my rate is, dependent upon what they need, the scope of the project. And if they answer back, asking for a little bit of wiggle room, then maybe if it's worth it, then I'll do it, But again, this is the beauty of having you are the boss, you are the CEO of this. So you get to make the decision on how you want to do this, how you want to approach clients, what to do if they approach you with, negotiations. It's all up to you and how you want to do it. Caesar says to Joy, I really hope you get better soon. As soon as you are, it would be awesome to either revisit your snowball or recommend a suitable USB mic to start. Yep. Charles says, hello, my friend. What mic are you using? I am using a Sennheiser MKH 416 shotgun mic. That is what this one is. Dwight says, I developed a formula that works with all the factors. How long does an average per finished hour really take to do? So if you take 3 hours to produce one per finished hour, then multiple 3 times the number of per finished H's, and there is your minimum. Don't ask me to math. No math. It's too early for math. Donnie says, oh no, Sweetwater sells desks. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Caesar says, I challenged my wife to a kickboxing match. I woke up a couple of days later feeling refreshed, but my face hurt like hell. Brian says, there's always something there to remind me. Don't put that earworm in my ear. God, now I can hear it in my head. Always something there to remind me. I thought we were friends, Brian. Joy says to Caesar, oh, thanks. I'm at the physical therapy stage, so they can be tough or therapeutic. I just want to survive. It's a mix of both. Feels good, but later, not so much. Hoagie says to Bears, yes, desks and more. I'm like Angela. I, too, have created a Sweetwater studio. And with each order, candy. Yes. I think with my... What did I get? I had a desk, and this was a production, let me tell you. When my desk had arrived, it was delivered on like a big flatbed truck and with like the whole, on a pallet, and it was crazy. And they also threw in a shirt because it was expensive. And of course the candy. But I remember that day. That was when I first went full time and I completely revamped my studio. But yes, they have lots of desks. Brian says, yes, audiobook into daily rates for goals. You could, if you wanted to. You're one of those people that is not me. You're very organized and like to break everything down into little chunks. I don't really go that. My brain doesn't really work that way. I sort of go, okay, that's good. Move on. All right, that's good. Move on. And you just go further. If you want to, you can. I don't personally do it. I think I just look at it as when I'm going to be done with this book, that's going to cover this many days, right? So I need another one to cover this many days, right? That's kind of how I look at it. I guess it's close to that, I suppose. Donnie says, oh my God. Yes, listen to audiobooks. It can help. It is like an athlete watching videos of games. Absolutely. And not only that, but every once in a while, you'll be like sucked into the book and then you'll hear a retake left in. Or you'll hear somebody taking a sip of water, or you'll hear something like you could clearly hear. There was a book I was listening to, the like first 3 chapters. I can clearly hear that the narrator had a cold. And then all of that that nasally, that nasal sound, that all went away, from chapter 4 on. So you'll start to pick up these things, and it makes you feel a little bit better about yourself, that you don't have to be perfect to narrate audiobooks, right? You want to be good. You don't have to be perfect, whatever your definition of perfect is. Caesar says, as much as I enjoy Sweetwater Sweeties, I just got my blood sugar level under control. Yay, you. So I stay away from sweets. Wish I could stay away from Mike's, but no. Chelly says, hi. Was looking at what your platinum member offers, and I was curious about the weekly group sessions. What do those... Everything. We go over a lot of different things. Most of what we do is gamified. So it's fun. We have a lot of fun. The weekly meetings, and I know all my platinum members watching are probably chiming in right now, but we have every Thursday, we have a meeting that runs about 2 hours, usually a little bit over that. And it's usually a topic or two. Like Wheel of Emotions is always fun. We have a number of different scripts, and then we have this wheel, kind of like the Wheel of Fortune wheel, and each tile is an emotion. So whatever emotion it lands on is what you have to use to read the script. We do what we call roulette read, which is a surprise script. We go over and break it down, analyze the script, and then take turns reading it in different perspectives, which is always interesting. We go over websites. We review websites. We review auditions actual auditions. We do mock auditions. We go through audiobooks, IVR, e-learning, almost anything and everything that you would want to know. We go over in a group session, and they're all recorded. So if you miss one, you can always go back to my website where they're all stored and watch them. You can watch them to your heart's content. And not only with the group meetings, but you also have access to practice scripts. You also have access to our private group Discord, where almost anybody is available at any time of the day. You can watch other voice artists record audiobooks. You can watch me edit podcasts. I mean, for the price point, it's definitely should be a lot more than that. But I'm adamant and keeping that price point at $20 a month for what you get it's worth so much more. But that's what I'm going to keep it at. So it's a heck of a deal, even if I say so myself, compared to what else is out there. Caesar says to Shelley, the weekly activities are super fun workshops, but what the Platinum Group offers is access to a community comprised of various experts willing to help and guide you toward success. That too. Vincente says, hello, Angela. Hello, Vincente. Or Vicente. This is the first time I watch a live stream of yours, and I've been following your channel for a while. Well, thank you so much for the support and the love. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you can make it. Mason Construction says, to increase the amount of opportunities with low competition, greatly increase your marketing outreach. Build a customer prospect list and email regularly. Absolutely. And don't just, to his point, don't just sit and, sit on these websites and platforms and think, yeah, okay, that's great. You also need to market yourself in other ways. You also need to direct market, reach out to clients, whether that's phone calls, emails, pound the pavement, or social media marketing, or a mix of all three. So you definitely need to be proactive in supporting your business and getting clients to come in or come back, right? Reminding them that you're there. Caesar says, experts in Platinum range from experts in equipment, booth construction, vocal performance, sound engineering, DAW processing, and even analog workflow if you have the gear to match. We have a lot of people in our group with all different kinds of experience to help and support. And not only that, but we're like I know it sounds cliche, but we are like family. We all support each other and get invested in each other and, reach out that hand and a warm hug if needed. It's a great group of people. It's a great group of people. It really is. Donnie says, keep casting that line. The right fish will bite. Exactly. That's what I mean about, your rates. Dwight says 25 times 3 is 225 for the project. I see what you're saying. Okay. Masonry Construction says, Caesar does stand up, your first audiobook. Shelly says, Caesar, thanks. I really want to join soon. We'd love to have you. We love the more perspectives and opinions, the better. It just makes us all stronger. Caesar says to Shelly, we'll look forward to that, to the day. We'll have the red carpet, refreshments, and a moist towelette ready for you. Caesar. Masonry Construction says, that's actually an interesting idea. I mean, think about it. Laugh tracks and all. Make it sound like a live recording. Bit like Jeff Foxworthy. Caesar. Shelly says, thank you. Bear says, we have Thursday underwear. Stop it. I'm giving you the mom look. Donnie, what's the matter with you? All right, y'all. I have got to get back to work myself. As always, I think this was a fantastic discussion, and thank you all for taking the time to get involved and, offer your opinions and your insight on things. It really is helpful when you guys do that. I hope this has kind of clarified some things for you. If you do not have a price sheet or any kind of idea on what to charge yet, go to those sites, do some research, get a good idea of what to charge, where, and at your experience level. I hope that helps. But if you're watching this on Team Replay, if there's anything else that you have questions on, or if there's like a topic or two that you have that we'd like us to take a deep dive into and talk about together as a group, please leave them in the comments below. It's really appreciated. But until then, I'll see all of you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. If you're in my platinum group, I'll see you guys in just a couple of days. I'll see you later. Bye. Thank you for listening to She Lancer Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. That's me. For more information about me, visit my website, voiceoverangela.com, or hop on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. Again, thanks for listening. Have a great day.